Kia ora, welcome back to Under The Whāriki. I'm Anatola.
I'm Tahu.
And today we're talking about drugs. We have a beautiful guest with us today. I'm going to get her to introduce herself.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I'm Gwyneth. I'm from an organisation called Know Your Stuff New Zealand. I've been volunteering for them for the last 5 or so years. And what we do is we provide legal, free drug checking to New Zealanders all over the country.
Mean.
Wicked.
This is good. I'm excited.
Okay, but before that, we're going to start off with our warm-up game that we've started off every podcast with, which is yeah, nah, or nah, yeah. You have to take a stance on the statement I'm about to read, and you're either a yeah, nah, or nah, yeah.
Okay.
Have I?
Okay.
Pineapples on pizza. Yeah, nah, nah, yeah.
Nah, yeah.
Nah, yeah. I'm with you.
What?
Fix your face, Tahu. Why are you looking at my ass like that for?
Yeah, you're all yeah, nah.
No, nah,
Nah,
yeah.
yeah.
Nah, yeah.
Yeah, nah.
Why?
I don't mind fresh pineapple, and I can eat it, you know. Don't get me wrong, I'll be grateful. Mum puts it on the plate. It's getting clean, don't worry.
Yeah.
But ungratefully cleaned, you know. Angry about eating. I don't like warm pineapple.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like it like warm
Right.
on there. And it's like the budget pineapple, they're those little
Yeah.
diced. It's a no. It's not even a
There's a lot
yeah.
of judgment coming your
Yeah,
way.
no, and
There's a lot of judgment in this game.
And you
isn't
feel
it?
correct.
And the vibes are correct.
Yeah. But I actually surprisingly do like sliced pineapples. So I've got a real contradicting opinion. On it. Yeah,
Oh
I
my
like the
God.
sliced ones on my burgers, not on pizza.
Not on pizza. And what are your thoughts, Gwyneth? Why is it a nah, yeah?
I'm just not fussy, eh?
Oh, she hit you with a not
Sorry.
fussy one.
Yeah.
Feel the
And
judgment.
weird. Nah,
Everything's
good.
I'm a nah, yeah. I love pineapple in my pizza. I have it in cheese toasties.
Oh, yeah.
I love it in burgers. I love it in salads. I'm a how yeah, nah, yeah.
Cool.
You know? I love it.
Yeah.
Great. All right. So moving on from our
moving
question, you get to put some questions to us now, and it's a bit of a competition. We grab our whiteboards, and me and Tola are really competitive about it. So
Whatever.
whatever. I'm not competitive. I'm just a winner.
Whatever. I'm just used to winning. That's
Yeah.
the problem.
And you'll read us your questions, and we'll give you the answer and why.
Okay, cool.
Cool. How many questions do you have?
Let me count. 5.
5.
Is that
Should we
fine?
pick the best 3?
Pick the best 3?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right.
First question. Are you ready?
Yes.
Roughly what percentage of New Zealanders have taken illicit drugs?
What percentage?
Whoa. Illicit? What is illicit?
Illegal.
Oh, okay. Illegal
fancy
drugs. So pretty
language.
much every drug. Besides all the drugs that the government write off. Bullshit pricks.
All the legal.
You want to go that direction? You
Yeah,
want to go
yeah.
there?
We can go there
Jokes,
later.
love you, government. Don't track me down.
Okay, what
Okay.
percentage of New Zealanders have tried? Oh, but are they telling the truth? That's what I want to know. Okay, I'm just going to hit it. Just be strong with your conviction.
Go.
I said 68%.
Oh my god, 67!
Wow! Oh, you're on. I know this.
I just like
Oh.
she's got a real bad thing about odd numbers, so I've been making a point. Always
Everything
picking an odd
on
percentage.
number. I hate it here.
67%.
It's actually 80%.
Whoa!
Yeah.
I'm closer.
Yeah, true.
Yeah!
You win.
1-0.
Boy, so it's
Whoa.
80%.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is
So-
so many.
Yeah, that is a lot.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
oops.
Dang.
Good
80%.
Do you think anyone is like lying that's saying that they haven't?
Probs. Or like
I don't
saying
know.
that
I
they have.
guess if
I mean,
it's a
80% is
voluntary,
big.
I'm not sure which survey this data
Yeah,
came
how many
from,
people
but
did they
if people are
test?
opting in, then potentially.
And also, are
To
you
be
testing
honest.
people like just their R&V? Because 80%
Yeah,
seems
no. That's
That's
high.
a lot, eh?
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
isn't our survey. This was something done on the population, not just festival goers. So
Right,
Right.
it's just a number I have, and I'll find it for you afterwards.
Yeah, that'd be
Great.
interesting to look through. Yeah, for sure.
80%. But at the same time, everyone I know has tried drugs.
Also, like weed.
Yeah,
weed.
that
Most
counts.
people have tried. Yeah, like
Weed counts.
yeah.
Yeah.
And party pills and stuff like that's so accessible.
Oh, where?
Whoa, 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 whoa,
There you go. Okay, cool.
Okay.
1-0 Tahu.
Cool. All right,
odd
what's the
numbers.
next one going to be? All right, naloxone. Sorry, naloxone.
Naloxone.
I'm not actually dyslexic. That just came at me wrong from the page. Naloxone is able to treat what?
The
Oh.
Loxone.
Naloxone. Naloxone.
Naloxone.
I'll give you a clue. It can treat what kind of overdose?
Okay.
So can you say the question again, sorry?
Naloxone is able to treat what kind of overdose?
God damn.
Naloxone.
A drug overdose?
What's up, mate? Naloxone.
Oh, are we going intense?
Okay. When you're ready.
Okay, wait. I'm going intense.
Nice.
How did I spell longer? Meth.
Meth.
Meth and
I
heroin.
went with heroin.
You are correct. It's not just heroin, it's any opioid overdose. So that's the family
All
of
the
opioids.
opiums, yeah.
What are some opioids for those who don't know? Heroin?
Heroin, some commonly used ones would be fentanyl, you hear a lot about in our...
That's big in America, right?
Yep.
Is that big in Aotearoa?
Not currently. It's
Right.
used medically, so in hospitals you'll see fentanyl. But recreationally, we don't see a lot of it.
Opioids are kind of like the biggest addiction around the world, eh?
They are quite addictive,
Yeah.
yes. And there's quite a big sort of crisis in the States and Canada.
Do they use it as like a PTSD kind of thing?
I actually don't know.
I don't know where I've read all this. I don't know how I'm coming up with this stuff, sorry.
No, it sounds good. Sounds good. Sounds good.
But
You
yeah,
got that point.
naloxone is a legal substance. You can get it here in New Zealand, but it's not very accessible, unfortunately. But
Where would you get it from? Like, not just pharmacy, you have to be prescribed?
yeah, pharmacy, you can get it prescribed in in an injectable form, but you have to be prescribed that.
Right.
But there's a nasal spray that you can buy, but it's not subsidized right now. So it
And
costs-
like, is there something wrong with naloxone?
No, it's not harmful at all. So we want to get more of it in New
Right.
Zealand so that just in case we start getting more and more opioid users, regular everyday people can equip themselves in case they come across someone having an overdose.
Right.
But ambulances here will carry it. Paramedics have naloxone.
Is heroin quite big in Aotearoa?
Compared to other countries, no. But there are heroin users here.
Is it a little bit like less accessible here?
I'm actually not sure on that. But yeah, we don't see a lot of it because a lot of people who come to know your stuff are more recreational users, and you often
Right.
see with heroin users it's more of a consistent thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
probably the needle exchange is who you'd want to talk to about that. They do the same thing
Gotcha.
as, they test drugs as well like us.
Great.
And would you use the word addicted to heroin, or would you say someone who just regularly uses it?
I think it depends on the person and their type of usage. So you can use heroin and not be addicted to it, but there are people who get addicted to
Right.
heroin.
Right.
Got you.
Opioids are the ones made from the poppies?
Yep.
Is it
In
Afghanistan?
Afghanistan, yeah, there's a lot of poppies there. Yeah, comes from a poppy.
There you go. Well, you know.
The more you
know
know.
your stuff.
There it is.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Okay,
cool.
final question.
Final question, tiebreaker.
Let's
Oh my
go,
gosh.
let's go.
Okay, what commonly consumed illegal drug can lead to bladder damage?
Ooh.
I actually have no idea. But this is good to know because I feel like incontinence for people with uteruses is a really big thing. So these are the things we should know. Yeah.
MDMA?
Oh my god, I said the same thing. Oh
Right. I
It's
just thought common.
ketamine.
yeah.
Huh?
Ketamine is our biggest bladder
Whoa.
damage.
What's
ketamine? The
ketamine?
horse drinks.
It's also used on humans.
Wait, I have never. What's ketamine? This is
Ketamine is a
Ketamine.
drug that people often use. It's what we call a dissociative, so it sort of
Right.
makes people dissociate a little bit. It's one of our more commonly seen drugs actually, MDMA and ketamine.
Do they use it for horse drink, guys?
Wow.
I think it has been used in veterinary
Right.
situations as well, but also in humans. Like if you
Right.
break a bone really badly, they'll probably use it
Ketamine.
in hospital
Wow.
as well. So
Sorry, we need to break the tie. Should we go one more?
Oh yeah, one more.
Yeah, I
one
think
more.
you've gone
Alright,
the
alright.
fastest at everyone.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no,
Nah,
it's
you're good. You're good.
quick fire questions. Okay, what is the difference between MDMA and ecstasy?
don't know. Oh.
Don't judge my spelling.
Wait, give me a second.
Like, $4 now. $4 is the okay. What's the difference?
Honestly, I'm gonna say I know this is wrong, but I have no idea. No difference.
What's your answer?
I went one is an amphetamine.
You're right.
Oh my gosh. I should have just settled for the draw. Look at you.
So proud.
So this is stupid. We get it at this game. Right. So they're both. Is MDMA even an amphetamine?
No.
No. Right. Yeah. There you go.
Amphetamine?
Yeah.
Did you make up that word?
Yes.
No, amphetamine is a drug as well.
Like
Yeah,
methamphetamines.
like a family of drugs.
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, MDMA doesn't come under the amphetamine family.
What does the M stand for?
Does it?
I thought it stands for meth. Amphetamine. Nah.
There is I can't give you the exact chemical name of MDMA right now, but there is a methamphetamine inside
Can
it.
we have
so
a fact check in the back?
Yeah, I have a
Right, so there's no difference between MDMA and ecstasy.
Ecstasy is a street name used for MDMA.
Right.
Right.
And what's MDMA a street name for?
That is
Methamphetamine.
a shortened. It's just the abbreviation of its full chemical name,
Right.
but I can't remember the full
Right,
chemical
right,
name
yeah, yeah.
now. We see it a lot, but in terms of drug families, yeah, I can't give you its drug family right now. Sorry.
Wow.
That's all right.
brain blank.
Now that's really good because I feel like I love these little pop quizzes before the episodes because we get to learn a little bit, but also test our knowledge. Like, where's our knowledge sitting
Yeah.
with this? And as you can tell, we don't know very much. Or
Probably
just
from
like
all the drugs. No.
but no, it's done. But so regarding your mahi, like you work for Know Your Stuff.
Yeah.
What does that look like, and can you tell people a little bit about what you do at Know Your Stuff?
Yeah, so my role is a co-lead for the Auckland region. So a lot of what I do and my co-lead Craig is coordinate sort of with volunteers who want to be volunteering for some of our events. We try and lead training sessions to upskill them in their harm reduction knowledge because when you use our services, you don't just get the results of what your drugs are, you also get a conversation, which is the most important part of it, where we sort of tell people how to reduce their harm when taking the substance that they've found. So we do a lot of those trainings online and in person here in Auckland. It kind of tapered off a little bit over the pandemic when we weren't allowed out and stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of my role is just liaising also with events to get our people there and kind of organising all of that stuff.
So it's a real judgment-free space. You guys say to anyone, come, we'll test your stuff and then we'll have the convo with you about how to practice it safely.
Yep, definitely. And nothing is ever safe. Obviously the safest way is to not take it, but we want people to have all of the information that they can before making their own decisions. And for a lot of people, we're the first people they've ever talked to about their drug use without judgment or without any kind of hidden agenda or trying to get them to stop. All we're doing is telling them what's in it, how it reacts with your body, and how to reduce harm.
Nice. And police can't access this information, right?
No, we give them high-level data on the results that we found so that they can act appropriately in their own communities. But they cannot use anything that we do.
What's high-level data like?
What we found, basically. But we publish that to the whole country.
Right. So you'd be like, this many people are
These are
using
the
cocaine or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, or this many samples that were presumed cocaine were cocaine and this many were not. Just so they know what's out there.
Right.
And they can check it with what they're finding at borders and things like that. And they'll also let us know what they find at the border so we can look out for certain things coming in. But they cannot use it against any of our clients. We're not allowed to take any personal identifying information from our clients. And even if somehow a police officer found out that someone had used our service, there's no way that they could use it against them in the court.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's very cool.
That's really cool. So what are some of the misconceptions about drugs?
I think for me, the biggest one that I have realized since doing this work is that there's no single type of person that uses drugs. I think a lot of people picture something when they think of a drug user.
Yeah.
And it's just everyone. It's everyone and their mums. Like, you cannot tell a drug user from a non-drug user.
Yeah.
Well, you can tell some.
Judgment.
Yeah, oh, I know, but you can some.
Yeah, sometimes you can tell if someone takes drugs, but you can never tell that they don't.
Just, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so we once had someone come and visit our service who came from a health-related organisation. She just wanted to visit and say hello and like see what we did. And she said to me, we were standing outside the front, and she was like, "Oh, I'll come around the corner so people don't see me and get spooked." And I was like, well, you just look like one of our clients. Like, it's not that you don't look like someone who uses our service. You actually do. You just look normal, and everyone uses our service. So that's one of the big misconceptions. I actually have a list. One other one is that alcohol is not a drug. That is a huge misconception.
Oh, right.
Because it is a drug. It's just a legal drug. It's just a drug that the government has said is okay.
Yeah, that's right.
But it actually interacts with a lot of other drugs that people take, and I think that because it's legal, people assume it's safe, but that's also not the case. Yeah, so there's a lot of harm reduction that can come with alcohol as well, and especially mixing alcohol with other drugs.
Right.
So that's something that people forget, I think, because it is legal. What's another good one? Yeah, we've talked a little bit about addiction in the quiz, but just that the majority of drug use is not actually addiction. People use drugs recreationally and they're not having a physical addiction to those drugs, but I think people often think if you use drugs, you are addicted to drugs.
Right.
But that's actually the minority of users are actually addicted, so that's a good one.
That is massive. You talked about like how nothing's safe. Nothing actually can be safe. The best safe way is not use it.
Yeah.
But these safety measures, like what would be something you'd tell me if I was using MDMA, and how did you guys come up with these safety measures? Did like someone try this while they're on MDMA? like what? Or you just like taking the chemical.
There's quite a bit of research done on things you can find scientifically what a safer dose would be. So most drugs have a threshold where if you pass that threshold, you're leaning into the kind of dangerous territory, whereas there's more risk of overdose, risk of long-term effects. So we can let people know what a safer dose of that drug is. Also to keep drinking water, that's something but not too much water is another thing. To stay warm. I think people forget on MDMA, they forget what their temperature is doing. So just reminding them, if you are outside in the cold, bring a jumper. Also, if you're in the middle of a mosh pit, take off your jumper, like you're not going to overheat. Other things are letting your friends know what you're taking so that they can react appropriately if something does go wrong. For MDMA, there's a couple more things that we would say. Don't take out your whole bag of drugs, because then you're probably going to have them. Like once you're high, you probably have a little bit less logical thought and self-control. You just want to prolong the feeling. So dose safely and dose low, and don't take out your whole stash. Just take out what you want to have in a night and what's safe for a night.
Nice.
And then don't be afraid to call emergency services if something does go really wrong. I think people feel the fear that they're going to be punished, but that is there for your safety. They're there to help you, and they know how to react to those kinds of situations.
I feel like it would be quite hard to, maybe for some people, around explaining to your friends like, "Wait, I'm going to just do some MDMA. Watch out for me." Because maybe that judgment there, right? Like, the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, why are you doing that?
Yeah. Like.
Or can I have some?
Or like, I don't want to share. Yeah, you just seeing me and fucking jaw bouncing. You're on shit. Nah, bro.
No, where is it?
So, like, where is there a kind of process you guys are going through of breaking the stigma around drug users? Because especially that stigma that all drug users are addicts. That's something that needs to be made really clear, right? Around that most people are just recreationally using it. So, what do you guys do to educate people there?
I
And
think just us
inform?
existing is trying to break the stigma. Coming to people where they're at, like we ask them, how much do you know about this substance? You know, how much, meeting them kind of on their level.
Yeah.
We're also part of their community. Like we are people who go to festivals. That's how this started. We're all there to have a good time, and we all have friends doing the same things. So I think people trust us a little bit more because we're from their communities, which is something we're trying to broaden, because obviously people who go to festivals, it's a certain level of finance that you need to actually be able to afford to go to a festival. So for a long time we were only hitting that small section of society, but now we're trying to provide free clinics across the whole of New Zealand, so anyone can come in any of the centres.
That's so good. And so accessible, and I think the more visible you are, the more people can know that there's safe places that they can go to, especially if they're like really struggling.
Yeah.
You know, with something, it's good to find that place. And I love, like, because I feel like oftentimes when we talk about drugs, it's just so like punitive and it's so judgmental. And I feel like anytime I think about shame, I'm like, if you're gonna shame someone, like they're never gonna ask for help. You know, you're always gonna isolate them further and further. What do you think is like the solution when it comes to dealing with drugs? Because I hear a lot of people say we should be legalizing all drugs so that we can regulate and educate it more freely. I've heard people being like, we should have more regulations just in general. What do you think is a solution with dealing with drugs as a whole in Aotearoa?
It's a tricky one. There's a lot of considerations, I think, that need to be taken, and I don't think our organisation as a whole has one single stance on this.
Right.
But personally, I mean, we've all acknowledged that the laws are currently not working. Criminalising all of these substances is not stopping them from using them. So something's gone wrong there. And it's led to people having to, you know, trust online sources, import them dangerously, put themselves at risk, and then not even know what they're taking. But if the whole country just took a look at the harm reduction side of things, which I think is why a country would make a law anyway, is to try and reduce harm.
Absolutely.
Supposedly. Then, yeah, making drugs illegal, I think, is not the solution. But yeah, whether or not that's full legalization, I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know what the right answer is, but it's definitely not this.
Yeah, because I always think like you're gonna put a kid who's got like, I don't know, who's, you know, got some whatever drugs they have, and you're gonna put them in prison for however long. Like, what does that do to young people if they come out in a few years' time or a year's time when they're surrounded by a culture that is, you know, is not the best, especially if you're like quite, like you're learning who you are and whatnot. So I just feel like that the criminalization of that is just not helpful at all. And not trying to bring our personal opinions into it. I mean, I don't know if this is how we're going to be doing that, but I just feel like we should have more regulations and education about it, because then we can actually do something about it if it gets to the point of real harm.
Yeah, and if there's ways to take a substance in a safe way, you know, there needs to be more research on a lot of these drugs. You know, we'll never say the word safe, but if there's ways to reduce risk to, you know, we do a lot of risky things. We drink lots of alcohol. We drive cars every day.
Yeah.
You know, if there is a way to make it a lot safer, then why not?
So like suggesting like a drugs license, eh?
Yeah.
Like,
Maybe.
yeah, have to pass like psychiatric and like, yeah, just those.
To get your drug
You
license.
have to be a first aid trained and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a solution for sure.
Yeah.
We were talking just before about ayahuasca,
Oh, yeah.
which I know is like this big like fad like craze around the world. Like, what are your thoughts about that?
I actually haven't looked too deeply into ayahuasca. We've never seen a sample here, or at least not one that I've seen. But I guess it comes into, there's a lot of research into psychedelics right now. And it's one of the psychedelics, sort of LSD, ayahuasca, mushrooms. And there's been a lot of studies recently that show that they're having really awesome effects when used alongside therapy for things like PTSD. And I just think that I think the research should 100% continue. It sounds like those types of things can actually have really awesome effects for people. But yeah, specifically ayahuasca, I know nothing about it, to be honest.
Right, but psychedelics is something that should be explored more.
I think so. And I think there are researchers, even in New Zealand, exploring that at the University of Auckland.
Yeah. Do it on Under The Whāriki.
Yeah, we're just sitting there
And they'll be like, oi.
Yeah. But I think like it's a hard balance of trying to think around how to decriminalize it, because like I'm all pro-choice. Like I want people to have the choice to do things that they want to do, but then once you open that rabbit hole, then if they choose to kill someone, is that okay? Like, you know, that's where the difference between law and justice is kind of weighed up. So it's like, where do we draw the line? Is it ban all, or let all drugs in? Is it home cookers still allowed? Like, you know, where do we...
What does this look like?
Yeah, what does it look like?
Yeah.
Or do we give all control to the government, which everyone will just complain about anyway?
I mean, someone's going to complain either way, right?
Yeah, it's hard to win.
It is hard to win. That's a hard one for sure, because I feel like when it comes to like government being involved with all these things, you're never going to make anyone happy, right? Which is like, we can sit here and judge all the things, but it must be so hard to make a decision for every single person in this country.
Yeah.
Not saying that they get it right
No.
at all, ever, no. But like, just facts. But I mean, it's not a job I would ever want.
No, yeah.
Right? Like,
There's a lot of research that needs to be done, and I think it's not, But they legalized us, so that's a step in the right direction,
It
I
is.
guess.
Yeah.
Because that was only a year, 2 years ago now that we became legal.
Yeah, if we start with education and safety precautions,
Yeah.
then see what happens, eh?
Yeah. What's the biggest like drug issue in Aotearoa?
Gosh, I don't think I could comment on that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think it goes a lot wider than what we see.
Right.
What got you started into your mahi? Why did you start volunteering? Just a big...
Huge
drug?
festival
No.
fan.
Really a big time
Just a
druggie?
druggie in the-
Or, yeah, just a big
Big festival fan. I saw these guys pop up at a few events that I was going to. And I just got talking to the founder, Wendy. She's awesome, like really incredible, super scientific focused as well. Like you can't fault the science, I think. And that was what I was seeing in a lot of interviews with Know Your Stuff. I mean, I haven't been trained like they have, they're incredible at being interviewed, where they just focus on science. It's never emotional. It's never, hypotheticals. It's all just like, this is what we found. This is why it's working. And that really appealed to me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Had any like bad experiences that led you to want to help people, or no?
I did witness a drug overdose once at a festival in the UK called Boomtown, and I was actually on like a Ferris wheel type ride, so I couldn't get off and help this girl, which felt really spooky.
Yeah.
Because she kind of started convulsing and was on the ground, and the medics got her, and I don't think anything happened from it. I think she's okay. But it was just like a really intense experience because she looked a lot like me, like I was still quite young, and I had that impression of like, these are people who take drugs, they look a certain way. And then I saw this girl who looked exactly like me having a drug overdose at a festival that I would go to, that I was at, and I couldn't help. I was like, oh shit, maybe this is not, I'm not, I'm being small-minded kind of thing, so.
Right. I remember I went out one night with my girlfriends, and I was sober driving, and my girls were trash. They were living their best lives. Love that for them. It was 1:30 in the morning, and I was like, oi, let's round it up real quick. But I was waiting for them in the bathroom, because, we always go with each other, and I could see hair on the ground. And I was like, oi, that's a lot of hair to be on the ground. Like, that's a lot of hair. And I kind of looked down, and there was someone on the ground. And I was like, oh, so like, it was just so much going on. So I was trying to get the door open. I had to try, I'm a big girl. I was trying to squeeze on the door. Like, how do I get through this door? But I had to like, try to get her up to like, wake up to open the door. And I finally, after like half an hour, got in.
Wow.
We were just calling the ambulance. The ambulance was so rude to the bar staff. They were like, was she wasted? Was she drugged up? Like,
oh my
we've got
gosh.
more important things to do. Like, that was so horrible.
Oh no.
And so this girl started freaking out, and I didn't know what she was on. I was trying to ask her. I was like trying to hold her tongue, pull her tongue out. I didn't know what was going on. And like, she had vomit everywhere, and like couldn't find her friends. And I remember just sitting there being like, how do I help this girl? I don't even know her name. I don't know how old she is. She looks really young. And then finally, after an hour, the paramedics came, and how they treated her was just so horrible. Like, just really, not saying that all paramedics are like that, because I know there's so many amazing ones, But it was like really early in the morning, and it was very like, it was just really punitive and judgmental. And they were just kind of flopping her around and like trying to get her on and like telling her off in the state she was. Do you find that you have spaces where you can go and educate like medical staff on this, where like they can actually learn how to be more compassionate and patient, which I understand like there's so many health issues in the country, but like, do you think that our medical staff need more training?
I definitely think they need more training. Yeah, we have quite like a really good relationship with St. John's, especially. Most events that we're at, they're also at, and every night we'll give them a report on what we've found so that they can figure out how to respond. If, so say we found something, I don't know, I can't really give an example. Say we found Eutelone, which is this thing that has been substituted for MDMA quite a lot in the last few summers.
Right.
We'll let them know that that's what we found, and then they can kind of look into how to handle a medical emergency that's related to Eutelone.
Yeah.
So I think slowly they're getting more, but a lot of them, I guess, haven't been taught about recreational drug use and how to handle most of those. Probably just the usual, like, obviously opioid overdoses and things like that, but not as much people having a bad time on recreational drugs. But I think it's improving, and I think there's definitely a space, and there's people are really open to hearing from us and from people like the Drug Foundation as well, who just want to educate.
I've actually got a good example of that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I was at school, I must have been 18 or 17, whatever I was, and I took acid. And yeah, it wasn't on purpose either. So it was like we were smoking weed and there was something laced in it. Yeah, and it ended up being acid, which I later found out. Anyway, so I was already pissed at the time, drunk as, took this acid, and then I was just tripping balls, like losing my shit, so lost. And I was wondering, because I had smoked weed before this, I was wondering like, what the fuck is going on with me?
This is not it.
Yeah, but on my way, like one of my best mates, he was like, bro, you're not looking good. And I was like, I don't feel good. But also, don't call mum. Don't you dare tell mum. Yeah, and that's like where it's a real vulnerable state for young people, where they like the fear of dying was less than the fear of my mum.
Exactly.
You know, like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I felt really bad, and honestly, I had this trip where I was like, I down on the couch, I was just vomiting. People were looking after me at the party.
My gosh.
They had to just hold me. Anyway, I went into this like black space pretty much, and I come out of my body, and I was like looking at my body.
Shut up.
Yeah, and I'm like looking at my body, and I'm like, and all this light started to beam from me. So like, do you remember Avatar: Last Airbender?
Yeah.
The blue light started to come out of my eyes, like I started to float. It was like out of my mouth. I was just lit up blue, and all it turned to was just light all around me. So it was actually quite beautiful now.
Yeah. This is nice now.
But at the time, I was just looking at my body like, I fucking died. I was like, oh no.
Where am I going? Which way am I going?
I know. So I was like, I'm fucking dead. I was like, oh my
scary.
God. But at the same time, all I was thinking was like, oh, mum's gonna be so fucking annoyed. Like I was like, she's gonna be so angry at me.
She's gonna kill me.
Yeah. But that's the real danger of not knowing what's in your stuff.
Yeah, that's an insane story. And I've heard a couple of stories similar to that where like friends have sort of spiked their friends with psychedelics as a joke or whatever.
Oh, shit.
And I think, that does come from a place of just not understanding that the effect that can have on someone.
Yeah.
Especially with psychedelics, it's set and setting is so important. Like you have to be in quite a good mind space, you have to be comfortable, and you have to know that it's going to happen. Otherwise, you start seeing blue eyes coming out of your life. Like you're going to think you've died.
Yeah.
And then also the environment that you're in. So at like a random teenage party, that's not going to be a comfy, cozy place.
And being a teenager, anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I think like psychs are made for people who like...
Have lived a little?
Just know a little bit about themselves and want to further that journey, not start it there.
Yeah, it's crazy to be slapped like that. But a lot of what we get is not necessarily a spiking in that kind of way, but more of a a substitution for a drug that's potentially easier to get on the black market. So something that we have, what the media refers to as bath salts, which we don't really like to call bath salts because it covers a whole family of drugs which all behave quite differently.
Right.
But a lot of the time when we were finding the specific bath salt that started it all, I'll call them cathinones from now on because that's the actual name for the family.
Cathinones.
Yeah. Was this drug Eudelone, which in the summer of 2020, I think it was, 2020 to 2021, that was all the rage in the MDMA. Like so many of our samples were coming back as Eudelone. And the risk of taking your drugs without knowing what was in that is the dosage for Eudelone was a lot lower than the safe dosage for MDMA.
Yeah.
So you can take, say, 100 milligrams of MDMA, and that's not a very risky dose. But if you take 100 milligrams of Eudelone, that's potentially 3 times the safer dose. So that can lead to things like staying awake for 48 hours, if not 72 hours, really heightened anxiety. And I think a lot of the time at the start as well, one of the risks of, especially with those cathinones, is that you don't get as much euphoria, but you feel a little bit high. So people are just like, oh, my MDMA is weak. So they take more. And then because they've taken more, you're kind of going even past that 3 times your safer dose.
Right.
So yeah, and that can lead to a really horrible time.
That is scary. And knowing,
Really scary.
like, we get drugs from across the world.
Yeah.
They get to New Zealand, then they get cut 20 times before it gets to you. Hey.
Yeah, a lot of people say, I trust my dealer, like he's my mate, or
But that
whatever.
dealer's a bumboy in the whole scheme of...
Exactly, like you don't know your dealer's dealer or your dealer's dealer.
Yeah.
And
It's a whole list, right?
yeah, and they could have been screwed up the chain. So yeah, even if you really trust your dealer, even if your dealer's your dad, like you need to come and get it tested.
Your dealer's
Like, if you're not the top gun gangster of New Zealand,
No.
then you don't know where it comes from.
No.
Yeah.
Definitely
I
not.
feel like that unknown is really scary, and it's not to like fearmonger people, right? Because you don't want to fearmonger, but it's also a reality check. Like, how do people check if their drugs are laced? Like,
Come to us.
right? Come to you.
Us, the Drug Foundation and the Needle Exchange, we're trying to put it in all. It's currently we're in all major cities, I think, in New Zealand, but trying to get to the smaller towns. I think we're trialing out a van.
Right.
Awesome.
But yeah, and if you can't make it to one of our clinics, they're always free for clients. So like,
Nice.
don't let that sort of take you away, and they're 100% legal. But if you can't make it, you can buy sort of testing kits yourself. They don't give the same results, the same level of results. They will basically just indicate if something is in your substance.
Right.
The issue with some of those take-home tests is they're usually color-changing chemicals. So for example, some you will drop onto your sample and it will turn black from brown or black from clear if it's MDMA, or if there's any MDMA in it.
Right.
Unfortunately, because black is such a dark color, if there's any other reaction happening, so say there's like mostly Eudelone in that sample, but a tiny bit of MDMA, the whole thing will have a positive reaction for MDMA.
Right.
So yeah, it doesn't actually tell you unless it's 100% not that.
Yeah.
It's not going to give as clear. But if there's, it's better than nothing.
Absolutely.
And you can get those online from the hemp store and any kind of cosmic corner.
Nice.
Yeah,
Right.
those are good, but not as good as us.
Good place to wrap.
But yeah, and I think it's great for people to know where they can go for that stuff, especially if they're, recreationally taking drugs, but also just going to festivals, because that's what summer's about in Aotearoa, right?
Yeah.
So it's really cool to know, like, that there is a place for people to go.
Yeah.
And what I love most is, like, it's judgment free.
That's the biggest thing.
And
Yeah.
like, and it's not like disempowering language. It's gonna be safe, and people aren't there to like be like, oh, you're one of them. Like, it's,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna be an isolating experience.
And it's legal.
It's legal.
100%.
100% legal. Not what yous are doing is
No.
legal.
Yeah,
Before we finish, do you have any like parting words, like any last thoughts that you want to give for people to know more about your mahi?
Yeah, a couple of things that I was just thinking of, especially when you mentioned your mum. I think that it's a really important thing to spread for whānau is like, your kids are going to make mistakes anyway. Like, they're going to make their own decisions, and like, whether or not you're there for them at the end, they're still going to do it. So like, it can lead people into really dark places when they're trying to avoid coming home or avoid, sharing that. But if you just allow them to make a mistake, don't encourage, anything that could be dangerous, but, let them know that they can come back to you and learn from their mistake with you. I think that can really break the, help break the cycle, I guess.
Yeah.
And then the other thing to all New Zealanders is that I think the binge culture that we have is really dangerous when it comes to some of these things, because people think that more is better. Of alcohol, for example, people just binge, they want to drink it till they pass out. But with a lot of these substances that we see, that's like, it's not actually going to give you a better time. Like, there's only a certain amount of MDMA. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make you feel better. It just increases your risk of overdose or having a horrible time or long-lasting effects. So just trying to think about things slightly differently to how we usually think about.
I love that.
Taking your drugs in proportion.
Yeah.
It's easier said than done, eh?
Taking your time.
Well, yeah, because I'm a binge person.
Just sit back
Binge
and feel the
Netflix.
effects.
Binge Kai.
Netflix is fine.
It's instant gratification you get, right?
It is.
Like,
100%.
Yeah.
But that's a good message.
Yeah. And focus what you're already taking as well, because antidepressants, for example, can interact quite badly with MDMA.
Right.
So look at all of the drugs in your system as a whole rather than just the illegal ones and the legal ones as a separate entity. That's all.
Before we finish, does any drugs cancel out like birth control?
Not that I am aware of.
Okay.
No, you'll be fine.
Gotta know,
I think just lots of grapefruit, maybe. I think they say.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that cancels it out.
Is that a real thing?
I think it can increase your chance of something bad happening in your ovaries, or your uterus, but not necessarily reverse the effects.
This is your fault.
Sorry,
need to look at the pamphlet. I don't know.
We should totally look into that though. That's a really important fact.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, the key thing to take away from this isn't the grapefruit part. It's to go check your stuff and know what you have in your system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Practicing it safely.
Absolutely. And there are organisations out there.
Yeah. Well, not safely, safer.
Safer.
Safer
Nice,
practice.
thank you.
Safer practice. And know your stuff will help you with that.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for sitting down with us and
Thanks for having me.
educating us as well.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Oh my God, of course. And I just want to say I won the pop quiz.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you.
I'll catch you on the next one where I'll win the pop quiz.
See you later.
Yeah. Bye.